I only have one rule. Everyone fights, no one quits.
Welcome to WTC Squadcast, a podcast focusing on international matters, tournaments, communities, and the World Team Championship. The WTC is a proud partner of the T-Sports Network, Best Coast Pairings, and is sponsored by The Army Painter. If you'd like to support the podcast and the WTC, please visit our Patreon at www.patreon.com/WTC Squadcast. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the WTC Squadcast Into the Squad, where we get a deeper insight into how the teams work, how they form their teams, and what do they actually look for in the WTC event. I'm Işık, and today we have the Ukraine team, with Svet being the captain and Dmitry being the spokesperson. Thank you guys for coming on to the podcast, and if you can start with the introductions and how did you start essentially playing 40k, we can start from there.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Svyatoslav, just Svyat for many people that know me on ETC VTC now. So I started playing since 2014, I think, yes, but as a competition player, I think it's was 2015. Yeah, it's my first tournaments in our country, and after it, my first ETC in Greece.
And by the way, my first ETC was Greece as well, so we essentially
Nice.
started at the same time. And Dmitry,
Yeah.
yours?
Well, I started to play Warhammer in 29, and as I remember, my first ETC was 2010
Oh,
in
okay.
Germany, Münster, if I remember correctly.
So you were with the first Ukraine team then?
Yes, I was in the first Ukraine team, and maybe you know this strange story of how this team appeared. I don't know if you're interested in this or not.
Now I want to. I didn't know about the strange story. I didn't know if I had known, I would have asked. So tell me about the strange story of the very first Ukraine team.
Well, probably you know that in Russia there is a player named Zotov.
Ah, yes.
Yes, and in year 2010, he wasn't let to join Team Russia and decided to create his own team and decided that Team Ukraine would be good for him. So he tried to register Team Ukraine.
And just
But when we in Ukraine heard about this, when we hear that Zotov doing such thing, we told what's happening? Why? We are Ukrainians, not he.
yes, but for
And
just
because of this, we decided to register correct Team Ukraine and visit ETC for the first time. And we was not able to gather full set of 8 players. So that time we had, I think, 3 legionnaires, mercenaries. I think 3, or maybe even 4. It was difficult to gather team for the first time, but we did it. We visited ETC, and from that time our team were joining every ETC except only one, which was in Switzerland, which was quite expensive and difficult to get visa for Ukrainians.
yeah, and Ukraine had been a very successful team in the meantime too. It's like I'm looking at the records I have in front of me, and it's maybe this is because of my lack of knowledge, but how big is this 40k scene in Ukraine? And the that I would like to get there first, because you guys are really successful. You are out of 39 teams, you are 14, which is maybe, like I said, it's because of my ignorance. I wouldn't think that Ukraine is a big hub of tabletop gaming.
Yeah, we have a small community. If we see how many players have Poland, Germany, England, United States, yes, Ukraine is really small community, but we have a really strong community. We play many games. We play thanks to TTS some
Mm-hmm.
tournaments between us because our community is in different countries and it's not so easy to get to gather all good people in one place. So we have tournaments, of course, in real life, but thanks also to TTS, we can play with each other, high our level. And if you know, we play in TTS tournament, the last TTS tournament, team tournament,
The Greek ever
and
won, right?
yes, yes, and we have really successful, a real success in it, and was in top 5, as I just remember. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, like I said, it, it is it is commendable that Ukraine is very good. Like, would you do you? Okay, let me rephrase this. Would you say you have a special method of training, or will you just say you are really interested in the game?
I think first of all, our players really interested in this game. We really talk about different tournaments, rosters, have many chats, and so on. Every new big tournament, every new codexes, and we speak about it, make some rosters, test them, and so on. It's really nice. It's one of the best part of our hobby.
All right, that's good to know.
To make such a brainstorms, make rosters, test them, play with each other, and thanks to TTS, play with another guys all over the world and can up our skill.
Okay, how would you say you are committed to the WTC format? When I was talking with the Polish guys, they said their entire community was oriented just on the WTC team tournament. So it wasn't like they didn't have any singles tournaments. They just practiced on the team. Do you have a similar approach?
Uh, the most our tournaments is singles, but we also approach to VTC format. We always use VTC terrain, also use missions, FAQ. So we can say that most of our tournaments is single, but format is always VTC.
Okay.
Always based on VTC
Yeah.
documentation, clarification, maps, and missions.
Yes.
You guys mentioned that in the very first year, back into 2010, you guys couldn't form a five-person team. You guys could hardly form a five-person team. Is it better now? Are can you guys confidently form an eight-person team?
Yes. Now it's much better.
Oh,
Now we don't need any legionnaires. We have enough uh, people for, I think, not only one team, because the last time we rode to Czech Republic on the tournament, we have two teams for 5 guys in each from Ukraine.
oh, okay. So that is an increase in numbers. Uh,
Yes.
Can I add some?
sure, sure.
I think from year 2018 or 17, we had enough players and enough players to want who want to join the team to fulfill all 8 players without looking for mercenaries. Uh, Now we even have, I think, some competition between players to get position inside the team. So I think next time when we will go to the tournament, we will need some kind of, some kind of choosing players and deciding who will go as main players and who will go only for single.
Do you guys have a method of that you had been tinkering over so far?
Yes, we have a rating table that give different tournaments that name ranking. After is the first four position, it is the first part of the team of that ranking in the end of the season, and for other players will choose by these four guys.
Okay. Uh, this is this comes up with such rankings, so I'm curious if you guys thought about it. What if those four players all share same factions? Like, what if they all three of them play Space Marines, for example?
Yes, I think all teams have such a problem,
Mm-hmm.
but in last few years when we can go to different events, we choose between each other, deal with each other, and it was okay. I think it will be okay next time, but if you ask if some really strong question will be, I think the first ranking guy can choose first, something like this. But we will think about this if we have such a problem.
I
Okay.
would also like to add some words. Uh, we have many players, but many players now, I mean, but most of them play different fractions. Uh, so if we look at the top of our ranking now, I would say that all players there are different fractions, and it will not be a problem to choose. And
Yeah.
most of them are ready to play different fraction if it is necessary for a team.
Okay, so there is a natural diversion already, so this won't be a problem. That is good to know. It seems to be, uh, except for very big countries with like England or USA, maybe France. I haven't talked with them yet. That seems to be like players naturally seem to divert to different factions for some whatever reason. It's like if the community is only 20 or 30 people, there you don't really see 10 players playing the same faction. So that is interesting to see. Uh, how active is your community? You mentioned you had some tournaments. What are we looking of? Like in a month? How many tournaments do you guys host? Or it,
Now we have one big tournament per 2 months, but
oh,
always have such a problem because of COVID.
mm-hmm.
Uh, some tournaments may be closed, some tournaments may be pushed forward for some time. But now in the middle, it's one tournament, one big tournament per 2 months.
How many players are we talking about in the big tournament?
30 plus.
Oh, that is actually quite well. Okay. Well, I'm jealous, by the way. I don't have I we don't do- I don't think we have for 30 plus players in Turkey, active players. I mean, so there's like I'm always like yeah, the 30 plus doesn't might not seem too much to countries with numerous player bases, but that is actually diverse enough that you can make sure you won't play against the same people in a tournament, which is good enough.
Maybe, but in top we all, I think, we know with which player we can play. But yes, for the last few years we have really strong new guys, and I hope it will be more new guys will be better, and also they will want to go to different tournaments, also VTC, and we need really hard competition in the top of our ranking. It's make us stronger.
Yeah, no, that is good to know, and you have the record to prove that Ukraine can indeed deliver on that, which is interesting. But before we delve into the like future upcoming, I would like to ask about the past events. Not like this is I want to know, get to know you guys, and this is sort of like me trying to learn how what you are looking for, what a person looks for in the event. Can you both describe me your first ETC WTC events, first team tournaments in general? Like,
Mm, Okay, I think my first, as I said, my first ETC was in Greece. It's really great for me. It's the biggest tournament I ever see in such time. So was really a great party of Warhammer and other tabletops for me. It was really great as a player, as man on the party, I can say. Many strong players, many good and really funny, great people. And with them, I will speak many time after it, make some friends on these events, and I think ETC and in the future VTC will be part of my every year holidays.
okay. And Dmitry, can you talk about your first event as well, please?
Um, well, it was a little different from Svyatoslav because it was not only my first big tournament, first tournament not in Ukraine, and actually, I told you how our team first appeared
Mm-hmm.
and first visited ETC, and I joined the team because I had an ability to go to Europe to get visa to pay travels, and in same time it was, like when you go from kitchen Warhammer playing with the friends in your club and nothing else, and suddenly you go to the tournament with a lot of good players, Germany team, Poland team, England. It's like, holy shit, all these people are playing, and at home we only have something like 5 or 6 players. This world is so big around us. It's what's like I can't even find the words to describe. It's like when you were sitting in a small room, and then you open the door and see that there are a lot of the big world around. I know you understand what I
Yeah,
mean.
I understand exactly what you
It,
mean.
it, it was it was very fantastic impression, and starting from that first time, I always visited.
Yep.
I was not able to, to not visit next tournament. It was so good experience, so interesting. So I was doing everything, collecting money, spending vacation for it to visit tournament next year.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh, I agree with you fully. It is, uh, if you haven't attended, for our listeners, if you haven't attended in a a big tournament like 200, 300 plus person tournament ever, the atmosphere is so different. It is it is amazing to see people from dozens and dozens of different countries coming to a single location, and every single one of them you can just start a conversation because you are all there for one purpose. You all share a single hobby, and everybody there, you can just at the drop of a hat start talking how Eldar sucks and Admech is broken and Orcs are BS, and they will all agree with you and just without a beat talk with you back, and that is that is not something that happens to a person normally. It is a truly remarkable experience.
Exactly. Exactly. That is what I would like to say, but was not able to do it. Thank you for
No,
your help.
no,
Yes, it's really great how you say it.
it's because I'm like I can definitely understand because I had the same feeling exactly as you, Dimitri. It's like I I had to find some way to attend these events again. I had to force it. Like not force it, but it's like I had to prioritize this as a good thing in my life. And since the first international event I attended was the 2015 Winter Championship, and then the ETC was a whole new ballpark because it was the 2016 ETC in Athens, the one you first attended, Svet, was an amazing thing, and it only got better because the word got out. The word was already out, but it got more out. There's more 40k. There's more nations that send 40k teams than ever, and it's it is unfortunate because of COVID. But if the event happened this year or the year before, I think we could have broken 40 countries, 40 different nations all across the globe coming together for a single purpose. And that would be something remarkable for sure. But
Even now, when I saw some tournaments, some rosters, some guys in the top of them, I can say, "Oh, I know this guy. I spoke with him on this ETC event, and in VTC or VTC event in TTS. It's a really great opportunity for all of us. We live in not such a big community, and VTC, ETC, it's really a great opportunity for all of us to take a part, to be a part of the great Warhammer 40k competitive community.
yeah, exactly, and it is a bit of contrast where, uh, let's say the Americans send their best, who usually are players we see on top of ITC charts, who are like always at the semifinals or the finals of, uh, let's say Las Vegas Open or Nova or Adepticon or whatever, and then they play to a country they might not even heard of, but they both players will be good. Both and Americans have notoriously, until Sean Naden's stewardship, have not performed good enough, and that shows countries like Ukraine can actually put up. They they can, like every country, if worked hard on, can play this game very well.
This
Yes,
is true.
yeah.
Okay, so you you guys mentioned that uh, the first one was remarkable, and you tried to come again and again. And what was the? This is more like a personal question of mine. So you went back to your countries, and what was the reaction in Ukraine about your attendance?
I think it's really good. These guys, these players that play competitive Warhammer, they saw what we made on ETC. That our small community have a chance to grow up, to make some decisions. Yes, all over the world. They all have chance to take part as a team if they play really good, and it's a really great opportunity for every player that want to really play competitive and great game. I
Yeah,
think it's a really great motivation to grow up for every competitive player in our community.
Dmitry, this one is for you. When did what happened after your return in 2010? You mentioned that you you couldn't form a full team, but did that cause an increased interest in international tournaments in Ukraine?
Such long time ago,
It was, yeah.
we had not many players at that time. Of course, when we told how cool is this tournament, how interesting is to play there, we call some interest among our players. But unfortunately, community at that time was so small that we were able to find 2 or 3 additional players, and for I think 5 years, at least 5 years, we had problems to fulfill 8 players for the team. We always needed something like 1 or 2 mercenaries. It was a problem for quite a long period.
Was that
Uh,
was that
only
go,
only after second half of the 2000, I mean, 2014, 2015, community in Ukraine grown enough, competitive players community in Ukraine grown enough to gather 8 players.
was
And starting from this time, when community grown to this size, visiting ETC became like how to say it, like a prize. So all of these competitive players would like to go there and would like to play. And players who already done this were like, oh, it's the ETC team. These guys are good players. They win tournaments, local tournaments, and they're good players. It's like being ETC player in Ukraine. It's always mean you are a good Warhammer 40k player. That's like equality between these 2 senses.
so you had some essentially you had you could prove yourself because you attended ETC and because only good players attended the ETC Ukraine team.
Exactly.
Yes, I hope in the future every competitive player in our community have a goal to play as a part of the team and make it the best he can.
Okay, what about the economics of the situation? Uh, you mentioned that how big of a part did the cost of traveling to the ETC and WTC play a role in forming the team? Did you had to take on Ukrainian players who couldn't perform as well as the others, but were on the team simply because they could make the trip?
Of course, yes, we have such a problems because yes, our economic situation is not really good. But the last time it's okay to gather 8 people, but I think if we will have a better economic situation, we have more players, not only competitive or such things, just more guys in such a community, more people playing Warhammer. And of course, thanks to it, more competitive people, more people that can go to different countries and playing on different tournaments.
Well, to look deeper in this traveling situation, I would like to mention that some countries in Europe are cheaper, some countries require more money to spend. And go to Serbia or to Croatia is one point. It's not expensive countries and different ways to go. Even, we can even drive by car. And in same time going to Switzerland or Now, Belgium will be a different price, and maybe some peoples who would like to go will not be able to afford it. I think it will be some problem with it.
Yes, I also agree. The cheaper country we have that have a VTC event, then simpler for us to make a team, and not only team, but gather more people that won't play single event, help team as goals and such a things.
Okay, so you guys are all. This is a. I know it's a bit of a segue, but uh, you guys are actively looking for coaches and support staff to come with you and play singles, but also help with the team event as well.
Of course.
Okay. I agree with you guys with the economics. By the way, it is simply a reality of life that some countries have more funds to spend on this, and just by increasing your local player count, it increases the chance that there are players who can make the trip, and that usually ends up at a better team or such a more enthusiastic teams where they don't really think about the money. You mentioned Switzerland, for example, being an expensive country, and I talked with the Swiss captain a few weeks back, and they were like, "We don't really have a problem with making the trip. It is always about finding the best players that don't have familial commitments." So that is an interesting contrast to see between, uh, let's say, Ukraine and Switzerland in this case, which is, all right. This is different. Every country has to approach differently. They have different priorities, and it it forces players and the captain of that country to approach things differently, which is interesting to see.
I think
Economic situation, different expenses. So I think yes, it's a really true situation, but we have what we have.
I would like to add something. Uh, we are living in a new reality, actually. And I think for the next year, one of the reasons for people to go abroad or not to go will be vaccination. And maybe you don't know, but in our country, most of peoples were vaccinated by Chinese vaccine,
Uh, bec-
CoronaVac. And this vaccine is not in a list of good vaccines in many European countries.
that is true,
So
yeah.
it means that our certificate, vaccination certificate, is not could be not suitable for some countries. So this is a third reason we could have some problems.
That is true. I've been trying to travel a few places, and it is interesting to see different vaccination requirements. For example, Spain accepts CoronaVac and Sinovac, uh, while Austria does not. Austria requires only Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, if I remember correctly. And even those aside, who knows at this current situation with the third and fourth doses, because we are the if the WTC happens, hopefully it will happen in August, and that is like 9 months, 10 months away, and maybe we'll be required to have more doses of vaccination. So, and then we are looking into a even more difficult challenge of, okay, will I get my booster shot in time, or do I want to get vaccinated at all? Maybe I'll have some other commitments. Maybe I'll have an adverse reaction to a vaccine, and that means that I might not be able to get it, which means I might not be able to travel, which is an unfortunate event. I fully agree with you, and we just have to wait and see. It's
Yeah,
it's
exactly. No other way. We need to wait and see what we can do at the time when the tournament will run.
Yeah, that is about next year though. Let's assume we could actually make it, and you guys could form your ideal Ukrainian team with the player base? Let's say the event is next week, and you guys could form your 8-player team with no model restrictions. I'm making hypothetical, obviously. How would you guys place yourselves as on the rankings? Like, where do you think Team Ukraine would be if you had a good shot at top?
Svyat?
Okay, I think now we just start the season. We have a small amount of tournaments, but in the end we have a ranking table, and if VTC will be, so I think we can make a great, strong team. And if we talk about the ladder, I hope we will be in first 10.
Uh, I don't think that is out of question. The Ukraine had been in the top 10 before, and it's not like you were that far away. Yes, I'm looking at the records. In 2018, you were 12th, and in 2016 as well. And so I think if you can form a proper team, I think you guys can make it. I have seen you guys play. You guys play a bit on the rougher side, I would say, uh, more technical. But you guys can. I think you guys have the, let's say the. How do I sound not racist when I say this? You guys have the capability as the Ukraine community, from what I have seen. In my opinion, you guys can make it. So I trust in you guys.
I think if we have enough experience, that's the most our players need. So we're really waiting for time when we have right to different big tournaments in Europe, make more experience for our new strong players, and after it, I will think we can do all of this much better, and we not be was in such a 5s or 7, or we really want to make it best of 3 as our main goal for next few years, if we have opportunity to really get enough experience, and VTC events will be in such a situation.
Okay, I also want to know that you mentioned experience. This question came outside, and essentially people want to know, how do you see the TTS? You mentioned you attended some TTS tournaments. Greek Hammer in the summer was a big one. I think it was over 250 players. Do you see TTS as a useful tool to practice on?
I think it's really useful for new experience, because you can play with different people in all over the world. You can play different rosters, different armies. But as my opinion, it's never uh, exchange the real play, the real game in real life. It's good tool for training, it's a good tool for experience, but I hope the most and the biggest events also always be in a life.
With real models.
Yes, with real great, beautiful models, and great people, and with live speaking with them.
I agree with you guys fully. For people who have listened to this podcast more than one episode, they would know. I always say this game is not good enough to not play in real life. If I wanted to play a computer game, there are better ones. What makes this game good is the what happens on the table, and actually what happens off the table as well. You mentioned this before. It's the people you meet on the tournament. It's you can meet dozens of people from dozens of different countries, which is like, oh wow, I'm drinking at the same table with a Polish guy, a Ukrainian guy, and a French as a Turkish guy, which is that I think, except for like United Nations, this can be the only place one of the only places where I can get that experience, and that is pretty unique.
TTS never give you such experience, such as atmosphere is in a real tournament, live tournament.
And I
When you sit at home near the computer, it's not the same when you're playing in a large stadium, something like this, with hundreds of people, and it's different feelings.
no, fully. Uh, okay, before we wrap things up, uh, I have one question for you guys both. I want you to both answer, but before that, if people were looking to get news from Team Ukraine, is there a place they can go to online, like to just say hi, or maybe to reach out if they want to play 40K in case they visit Ukraine?
Yes, of course. If such guys want to play in Ukraine, we have some contacts with captains and with players from Poland, from different countries in Europe, and they always can talk with us about that. We can make some events, and it will be great, really.
Okay, so is there a Facebook page? I think there is one Facebook group with for Ukraine 40K players, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Yes.
there is one group, Facebook, but it is not feeling well, I would say.
Ah, okay.
Very,
Uh,
very not enough information. We are placing there only really important things. Usually it is about ETC or gathering for the ETC and reporting from how our team performing ETC. No, actually double VTC now.
Yeah.
But information about tournaments in Ukraine's, about players in Ukraine's, unfortunately, this information is not available on our Facebook page. I
Okay.
don't know. The best way probably is to contact me or Svyatoslav on Discord, and we can. If somebody is looking to play with Ukrainians, with our team, or visit our tournament, it is better to contact me or Svyatoslav, and we will do our best to help to find tournament or to find opponent to play.
Okay, so all these would be your guys' Discord profiles, and that Facebook group, although a bit defunct, will be listed in the description below in case anybody wants to contact you guys. So before we wrap things up, I want to ask both of you. You can answer it whatever order you wish. Can you describe me your ideal WTC event?
mm,
This can be anything, by the way. I'm not putting in any restrictions or any limits. Just whatever comes to your mind.
Okay, it will be a cheap country near in Europe
No, no, no,
with many people. I hope it's maybe teams from all over the world, not only in Europe or United States. I really wish to see guys from China, Japan, something like this. All that.
Yeah.
It's will be really a world championship, and we play with great, interesting people in our really beloved hobby, and I think it will be great.
And Dmitry, yours?
I would like maybe to add something. Um, I feel that at the moment, when you are playing 2000 points, 3 games per day, for me it looks like very exhausting. Maybe we should think about lowering number of points a little bit to make these 3 games a little bit easier. But maybe not. I'm not sure. It's my personal opinion.
No, no, that is reasonable. I'll agree with you because 3 games. I've run an event with three games per day, and for one day it works out, but when it's, especially if it's on the third day of the event, it can become exhausting. Yeah.
Yes, that is what I mean. But in other side, I will agree with Svyatoslav that preferable if it would be a country somewhere in a middle or eastern part of the Europe without special requirements for visas or such things, and relatively cheap, not Scandinavic, I would say.
Now, of course.
Something like this.
Okay, and I think that's a nice hope. That's a hopeful future to look forward to, and also end this podcast because I agree with you guys fully. Ideally, we should have. In my ideal WTC would have the players not spend a single dollar or euro. Essentially, we'll have like sponsors for flights, sponsors for hotels, where we don't really pay for much, and everybody can attend, just to prove they are, just to play for their country, just someone like a national team.
That looks too good. I
Yeah,
don't think that we will find here some, businessmen who are interested in sponsoring Warhammer team.
look, we just need to reach over to Elon Musk or something, and we just need a very rich millionaire 40K player who has more money than sense. It's very simple.
Maybe sometime in the future, but not now.
Okay, I'll thank you.
Now we have to do it ourselves.
Indeed.
Yes.
I'll thank you guys for coming on to the podcast. It was really interesting to learn about Ukraine, and I'm going to call on you guys in the future when it's closer to the event to get a more deeper insight of how are you planning for the 2022 event. And thanks for coming on.
Thank
Okay.
you for this opportunity. Nice to meet you. Always nice to hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to answer your questions. But do not expect that we will tell all our plans for the future ETC. Don't expect this.
Then that will be a very, very boring podcast episode then. Okay. Thanks to everybody who listened, and the profiles and the links we mentioned in the podcast will be listed in the descriptions, and hope you guys listen into the future episodes, and thanks for listening.